This is gonna be a big one. It is. Oh yeah. Listen up. What you do in the golf swing from right here to right here to right here is the most important thing that you can learn how to do. I'm gonna say this as a caveat because I know this is important because a lot of you at home get pretty fired up about this stuff and you certainly have no problem letting me know this. Today is going to be a very long video. It's going to be a lot of information. And so if you're one of those people that has a very short attention span and you want quick tip fixes, then I would probably do us both a favor. Click the dislike button and get on out of here because this is not gonna be a short video. If you're one of those people that thinks I waffle around or I talk too much, well, I apologize, but I'm going to make sure that the students that wanna know this stuff and have an intellectual understanding as to what it is they're working on and why they're working on it are gonna have that in their brain before they start going down the pathway of how they're going to work on it. You got it? Okay, good. I'm glad we got that set. We know that you have to do 3 things when it comes to playing good golf. You have to be able to manage the club face, you have to be able to manage the pitch of the shaft, and you have to be able to produce speed. You have to. You have to have a combination of all 3 of those things. And a lot of times, people work on things in sort of the wrong order. I know that after the many, many years that I've been teaching the game of golf, that every single person that plays the game of golf is very different. I know that when we look at the best players in the world, there are different styles of release. At MyGolfDNA, we have 3 specific styles of releases of the golf club. Today, I'm gonna be teaching you what we call our balanced release. This is a perfect blend of speed and control, and it works for players of all skill levels. The other 2 styles of releases that we teach are very much player dependent. Like we have a body aggressive release that would be a little bit harder on the body, but is more geared towards athletic style swingers of the golf club, younger players that don't like to feel a lot of big wrist and forearm inputs to the golf club. And then we have a hybrid release, which is kind of a mishmash between the power or the aggro power release and the balance release. Again, I'm not gonna teach you all 3 styles of release because I don't know exactly how you're moving the golf club in space. And one thing that you should understand too is that how you do everything in your golf swing from the minute you step foot into your address position, with how you grip the golf club, with how you load your body up, with your hands and your arms, where they move to in space, how you do that stuff early on in the golf swing really determines how you should be releasing the club. So a lot of times when it comes down to helping you get better at the game of golf, I love the reverse engineered approach where we start working on little small swings down here to train you how to put the proper inputs on the golf club so that you have something that you can build on. You need to be able to feel and see what it is that you're trying to get done. And you need to have a simple way for you to be able to do it right. If it's complex and we're talking about all of this data, we're talking about all of these little points that we've been able to uncover, then what that does to your brain is it just puts you into system overload and it makes you feel like you're a folded up lawn chair. Feels like you're not gonna be able to move. Data, or technology these days, is absolutely out of this world. It is. Technology is so freaking good. We can actually see inside of the best players in the world. We can see how their body is moving. We can see how their wrists are functioning during every sector of the golf swing. And we can see this information so clearly that now us golf instructors have a very, very dangerous amount of data available to us. And why I say it's dangerous is because it's how we use that data and how we process that information for us to be able to help our students. For golf instructors that know how to do this stuff, they should be able to use that data and help you understand what it is that you should be doing specifically to be able to get better at the game of golf. But unfortunately, what we do is we take this sort of approach where it could blow up a whole lot of golf swings. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Let's just get into it, right? We know in the history of golf, if we look at every single player that's played the game of golf at a high level, we know that there's not really anything that we can pinpoint that's in common other than what the lead wrist looks like at the point of contact. We know that the lead wrist at contact is anatomically flat or slightly bowed. Now, here's the big thing that was uncovered as of late. Over the last 5 years, is that playing professionals go from a flexion sort of standpoint in their wrist and they work towards extension at the point of contact. They're working towards extension, but at no point does their wrist go into extension at the point of contact. Their wrist is either still neutral or still in flexion. Let's talk about that terminology real quick so you have an understanding of what I'm talking about. If I hold my hand straight out in front of me and I make a fist, what you can see now is my knuckles in my lead hand are closer to the target than my wrist bones. If I move my knuckles back so that they're in line, that would be a neutral wrist, okay, neutral position. If I take my knuckles and I get them behind the wrist bones, so my wrist bones are now closer to the target, this would be considered flexion. So this is extension, neutral, flexion. Now, as I said to you just a moment ago, we've been able to see that playing professionals move from, let's just say hypothetically here with one player, goes from 30 degrees of flexion to 6 degrees of flexion at the point of contact. Then what happens at contact is that there's a collision between the golf club and the ball and the ground. And so that movement towards extension actually slows down, rightfully so. After impact, the wrist still remains flat or slightly in flexion for a few frames post-impact. So that's why I'm gonna tell you that the area that I watch the golf swing the most, whether it's you, me, or any playing professional, is I watch it from here to here to here. So just outside the lead thigh. Everything that happens above that, I really shouldn't care. I do look at those things because I look at the way the body moves further into the follow through. I look at the way the club moves further into the follow through. It's a way for me as a golf instructor to reverse diagnose how you're moving through the hitting area. It shows me how much tension you're carrying. It shows me how much shoulder rotation, how steep your shoulders are turning. I'm not going to be one of those instructors that teaches you something that's consequential to what you're doing earlier on in the swing. Teaching you, because we can see it on camera, that some playing professionals look like this with their lead wrist well after impact. Teaching you how to go into extension instead of letting that actually just happen is a really bad idea. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you that right now. If you and I lived in a world of Lagosaurus rexes, right, where you have all of this lag and you have tons of forward shaft lean, then that would probably make sense for us to be able to teach people how to get rid of it. Because again, you have to be able to square the face. So we know that you have many different ways to be able to square the face. I'm not going to teach you how to go into extension to do that. I want extension to be a result of how you're moving earlier on in the swing. I want extension to be a byproduct of you releasing tension through the point of contact. That's right. Because I don't know if any of you have ever looked this up, but when I've looked up the definition of release, it means to let go. It doesn't mean to hang on for dear life. So we're gonna teach you today how to get a proper balance of how to get good forward shaft lean, how to start letting the club release, and then I'm gonna teach you how to get the golf ball in the way of it, and you're gonna feel a whole lot better about the direction that you're headed. You got it? Okay, so now, as you just sat through the longest opener in the history of mankind, now I'm gonna teach you the drill. This is a drill that we're gonna start really small, and we are gonna work our butts off to be able to develop awareness. We're gonna turn that awareness into movement, and then we're gonna get an adequate number of reps done so that your practice sessions stick for you. Remember, when this is all said and done, after every one of your practice sessions that you want to be meaningful, you've got to do your best to get somewhere between 100 to 300 reps for your brain to retain that information when you go into REM sleep at night. Okay, it's very important that you understand that. Now, when we start out this process, we're gonna start out by doing these movements really broken apart. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do them broken apart to the point where you feel like I'm your father holding your hand in public. You know what I'm saying? And the reason for that is that you've got to train your body and get aware of the movements that you're trying to get acclimated to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start picking up the pace, and we're going to start letting all of that slow, monotonous movement start to come to light into actual movement pattern. Okay, so this is a fun drill, and I want you to set it up like this, and you're going to need a couple things in order to be able to do this drill properly. You're going to need a camera, and you're going to need an impact bag. If you don't have an impact bag, you can pile up your favorite couch cushions or your favorite set of blankets or pillows, whatever. If you don't have an impact bag, you can get one also in the link in the description below. I'll put one on there. It's not a sales pitch. I just think that you should have an impact bag so that you can get stopped the way that I'm going to teach you how to stop and check your positions. Okay, so how we're going to handle business here is we're going to get a golf ball set up, or you can have a piece of tape on the ground. We're not going to be hitting golf balls at first. And I want that ball to be positioned off of the logo on your chest. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take our hands and our arms, and we're going to swing them out just outside our trail thigh here. Okay, I want the club shaft parallel to the ground, and I want the toe of the club up to the sky. I want your wrist to be anatomically flat. Your lead wrist should be anatomically flat. I don't want it to be cupped, and I don't want it to be bowed. What I want you to do from this position is I want you to take your glove logo or your watch or whatever you're wearing, and I want you to turn it so it's pointed down at the ground. What you just did there was you shut the club face quite a bit. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take your hips and I want you to shift them and open them up, and I want you to bring the club down to the ball and get into this position and stop. I want your lead hand all the way to the end of your lead thigh, okay? I want you to get your hands all the way to that position. This is going to be a position of way too much forward shaft lean. This is going to be a position that you're probably going to feel pretty tense through your hands and your arms, okay? So how we do this, again, is set up, ball position off the logo on our chest, Swing the arms back, make sure the glove logo is pointed out in front of us. Turn it down, shift and rotate the hips, bring the club down to where the golf ball would be, and stop. Then repeat the process. You're gonna do several reps. You're gonna get to a point where you can do these pretty quickly. It's gonna feel like a piece of cake. Okay, so you've just done those reps. Now we're ready to start letting the club release. How I want you to get your bag or whatever you're gonna be hitting set up is I want it to be, if you were to do that first rep again, or you were to do one of those reps again where turn the wrist down, move your hips, hands are now on the outside part of my lead thigh. I don't want your hands and your arms to move in the direction of the target, but I want you to take the toe of the club and I want you to move it to the bag, and I want that first 1.5 inches or so of the sole of your club to be able to touch the bag. Okay, so you're basically letting the club rotate to the toe is touching this bag over here. If your hosel or your heel are touching the bag, then you know that you're gonna hit a high one to the right, okay? Letting the toe rotate to the bag is gonna be how you're keeping the club face rotating through the point of contact. This is not a release that a lot of you at home think that are revolved around timing. If you think that this is a release that's revolved around timing, then go find all of the best players in the world that release their wrists in the forearms just like this and tell them they have a timed movement in their golf swing. This is something that you can remove the timing from by just practicing things properly. You build a movement pattern and you can do it at a subconscious level. Don't fight with me on neuromuscular reeducation. I'll win this one, okay? It's not a timed release. There's timing in all of the golf swings. You have to remember, you can alleviate timing by doing the same thing on a repetitive basis. You got it? Okay, good. Okay, now, the goal is to be able to do this so it's one fluid movement. Okay, well, you're gonna do these in little broken up swings at first. What I want you to remember is when we're starting to let the club release, now that word right there should start to resonate. Release, by definition, means to let go. It doesn't mean to hang on for dear life. So what I want you to do to let the club release into the bag and let the toe move there is I just want your tension levels to be very, very light in your lead hand. Focus on your back 3 fingers of your lead hand, your pinky finger, your ring finger, and your middle finger. Focus on those fingers being very light and relaxed on the club. Let the tension be minimal. Remember, the great little Bow Wow said, you ain't in control unless you out of control, and Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. You get what I'm saying? We're gonna do it broken apart at first. Ball on the logo of our chest, we're just using it as a reference point. Our hands are gonna go from here. When they start moving outside the lead thigh, with our hips opening up, we're gonna let the toe of the club swing to the bag. Okay, so you're gonna do it broken up at first, preset the position, rotate the wrists, okay? Keep it slow and light at first. Okay? Remember, this is the area that we care about the golf swing the most. So we're trying to be perfect, okay? Try to push yourself to feel tension-free. You should feel like the club is kind of like light in your hands. That's why if you look at some of the still images from some of the best players we've seen over times, we can see some trail hands coming completely off the golf club. Continue to rep this to where you can do it dynamically. Okay, once you get dynamic movement here and you're checked, the positions are correct, now you're ready to start removing the bag and start hitting some golf shots. Let's take a look at that now. Okay, so very big couple of key points here before we start hitting golf balls. How you practice this stuff is going to be the most important part, right? We've already talked about that. So I want you to watch how I'm gonna practice this stuff. So I'm gonna basically run back through it in my head. So I'm gonna just take my setup, have the golf ball positioned in the correct spot. I'm gonna get my hands outside my trail thigh, break it apart. Okay, I might do that a couple times. Okay, now I'm gonna start letting it release. Okay. Okay, now you can start making it really dynamic. Remember, you wanna start out with little small swings. You're not trying to make big long swings. You're just trying to be perfect with the movements. Take your time. This is not a race. Okay, once you got it, then hit a shot. I like to have it on a tee just because it takes a little bit of the hit aspect out of there. Okay, really good and solid there. Golf ball went right around 80 yards on that little small swing. Yes, I know it was longer than hip high to hip high. If it goes a little bit longer and you're not having to think about it and you're doing the movements right, that's what you're shooting for anyways. You want to keep things small and condensed, okay? Don't think about the distance and what's going on in space. Stay focused on what your body is doing. Okay, go back through it. Repeat the process. I'm gonna let it release. Okay, thinking about that toe of the club, get it to the bag. A little bit more dynamic. Okay, hit a shot. Okay, now, if we were to slow that down and look at that on camera, what we would probably notice is that I don't have nearly as much forward shaft lean as I was drilling. And we would probably see that my lead wrist, once it gets past this position, starts to move more towards the extension side of things. We might actually even see it in extension. Again, I don't care what the wrist looks like once it gets out past here, if you've done everything right down here. If you're letting the speed come out of the club, you're letting it release, and you're focusing on these movements inside of it, you're gonna have a very well-balanced release, just like we talked about at the start of this. Let's do one more small one, and then I'll pick up the pace a little bit for you so you can see. Okay. Okay. I went about 100 yards there, again, on a small swing, but the contact was really, really good and solid. Okay, call that saucy boom bossy, or Saucemaster 3000, whichever you prefer. Now, at your discretion, what you can start to do is, as you get more reps, you start getting a little bit more proficient, you can kind of find where your threshold is. You can start picking up the pace. But remember, when your hands and arms start working down into that trail thigh position, really start focusing on the mechanics and the movements of what you're trying to get done. Sync that up with your hips, make sure the tension comes out of it, and have some fun. And welcome to the compression club, because now you can finally start hitting the center of the club face like it's supposed to. So some final thoughts for you. This is all about how you practice, okay? Trying to think about the little small nuts and bolts of what's happening and trying to move your wrists in ways that we would see of a tour pro is what's gonna run you into problems. Focus on making your movements as sound as you possibly can, just like we did at the start. Then slowly start to allow the tension levels to start to come out. Once you can start feeling it and you start seeing it on camera, well, that wrist position looks really good, and kind of the position that I was working on with Chris, and you're releasing it through that position, then don't be afraid to bring the ball back in, because this is what it's all about. Hitting the golf ball better and going out there to lower your scores. Take your time, have some fun with the process. You'll get there. Good luck, make it a great day.